Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Well, it's a new day at Orange Slices. It's all coming together. We have some help coming to help us produce the show. We got Brian Almy still here helping us produce the show. We got guests coming up, and Jeff and I still couldn't figure out how to get into the room.
We were in the room by ourselves this morning, which is probably the best place, but we found it. We made it happen. So we said, our goal for the new year is to get a little bit more streamlined. So we did
Take it up a notch.
Yeah, we're taking it up a notch. Gonna wind her up, get ready to go. So we got big plans, big guests today.
Awesome. That's awesome. We got big plans.
Yeah. Remember Vin? Remember Vinny? He always had the plan. I wasn't in the plan. So our plan is no plan. So
we got a big guest today.
Yeah, big time. Big. Like
Stanley Cup winner.
Stanley Cup, like Rod Buskus level guest. We started the year off with Busky, and we're going into three-time Stanley Cup winner, and frequent traveler of I-15 between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, so he can tell us about all the good spots. Baker, Yermo, Barstow. We'll talk to him about that.
I'll chirp him right now. So far this year, we've got our first two guests are recently retired. We got Alec Martinez coming in to say hi to us today, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, well, and the best part is I was talking to Marty last night, did the Flyers VGK game, so I just had a couple questions for him because and we'll ask him some questions today about it. And
did you do the game last night? Did you do the game?
Yeah, I did the game. I'm on a roll right now. That was a tough one. I guess the only good thing is there was the national championship football game helped take some of the people off it, but the Flyers and the Golden Knights didn't exactly wasn't the most cleanest game you've ever seen.
I watched the college game, but so I want to know. And then I've seen like bits and pieces on highlights afterwards. Tell me about the Flyers because I haven't seen the Flyers this year. I haven't watched the game. Are they different this year? Is it a facade? What's going on? Talk to me about the Flyers.
I like where they're going. I like what they're doing. Like Keith Jones and Briere. Like Keith Jones has come over now. He's overseeing everything. They brought Rick Tockett's their coach. So I really like what they look like. They were good enough to win last night. So you don't critique a win, but they've had a little.
You know what? The way I looked at it, it's also Vegas has won so many in a row. You're like, okay, well, they're going to skid at some point. So
yeah, they skidded. They skidded last night, and I mean, the Flyers have had a bit of a rough stretch, but they're not that far out of it. Like in the East, there's really nobody out of it. Vladar, their goaltender, they got from Calgary, has been really good. Went down, so they've had some issues. But Arison played last night. He played really well. So they're out here for a 3-game trip out west, so they got one win last night. I like where they're headed. I think they have. I think they got a template for what they want to do, and I don't know if they're where they want to be, but they definitely know where they want to go, and
they're on the business.
Yeah, if they can sneak in, you don't know. Like I mean, you look out west, and you've got the top 3 in the Central. Colorado, Mini, and Dallas. But out east, and those teams have kind of separated this year. But out east, I'm trying to think. Tampa Bay's kind of been on a good run, but other than that, there's nobody that's really blowing your doors off. So if you get in, I mean, I'm sure what Philly's thinking is like, hey, if we can just grab a wild card, we'll see where we go.
That's interesting. You know what I did on Saturday afternoon? I went and seen. Tell me if you would have thought. I'm going to go back 5 years. Would you thought Ian Bagg's in Utah, so he's going to go do this on Saturday afternoon? I went and watched Seattle play the Utah Mammoth on a Saturday afternoon. That was crazy that I could watch those two teams. And
Well, yeah.
I'll bring this up. They've really done because I went to a game there last year. They've really fixed that arena up quickly. Holy crap. They've put it together quick.
On your Utah thing, I didn't think we'd ever see you there again after that one place we went to for the comedy. Never mind hockey. Remember that? It was just south of was that in Jordan? South Jordan or something? Just south of
No,
Salt Lake.
you used to go to the one in Jordan. No, was it in
Yeah.
Jordan? Oh yeah. You used
Yeah.
to go to the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was because it wasn't right near where you played there.
Well, we were at the East Center, which we were at the Delta Center too, and now the Delta Center's totally changed. But no, I didn't think 5 years ago that you'd be going to watch Seattle play Utah, and that just goes to show you um, two things. First of all, Seattle, you know what? They're in it, and they'll support, and Utah's obviously supported. And the one thing Utah fights, and their owner has said it, is you got to just keep on building their base there because you got a lot of Avs and VGK fans in the
They,
Intermountain West, the Front
they're,
Range.
that arena was packed. They were loud. They were having a good time. He's building just fine. And I think I can't stand when that guy does interviews. I just think he's just a weasel. That owner of that team just bothers me like you would not believe. And I brought it up on stage, and people were like, "Yeah, he's a goof." I was like, "Oh."
You're taking him down. He's spending
Yeah,
billions of dollars. I love what they're doing in Utah. I think, I mean, I just think they pulled that
that's
team
still,
out of a 4,200 seat building in
yeah,
on the University of Arizona
and it's jam
campus.
packed.
Right. Yeah, that had nobody, they couldn't get anybody interested, and they moved it into Salt Lake, and all of a sudden, a year after being there, they should get a wild card. We'll see. I mean, they're not catching anyone in their division, but I think Utah should be in the wild card, and that's exciting. It's good for the game. NHL's got to be happy about that.
It was fun. It was fun. I
Yeah.
like going to Salt Lake City, the city of the salts, I call it. The city of the salts. But you know what? You know what's going on? No snow there. Oof, that's terrifying when there's no snow there in January.
You know what? I was in the air the last week, and I'm going to tell you, there
Ooh,
is no
somebody was
snow.
working.
Yeah, how about that? It struck me this time, like, on mountains, certain mountains like Rainier, Shasta, there's snow, but there's no snow anywhere else. And it is concerning because when you have all this flooding going on, but there's no snow, and there's no snow in the Rockies, it's not good. So, that caught my eye. It was like, well, this isn't very good, but anyways, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we get some snow, get the water. What do we call it? The snowpack. That's what
Snowpack. You
we
just need
always,
the snowpack
yeah,
for the later in the year.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna have fires. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be a lot of fires. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be not good.
Hey,
Not gonna be good.
have
But
you ever
it's
seen
still
LA this?
January, so we got time. We still got time for snow.
Yeah. Have
What'd
you
you
ever
say?
seen LA so green as it is right now?
It is gorgeous here. Let me tell you right now.
Yeah. It's the beautiful
It's
people of
like
Southern
Seattle
California.
without rain. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's like you. Beautiful.
It's
Yeah,
gorgeous. I tell you what, it's beautiful. I just walk down the street waving at people. Hello.
that's right. Hey, talking about beautiful, we got another guy from SoCal that we might want to bring on
You want to
here.
bring in our guest? You want to get to him?
Yeah, let's bring him on in. Let's bring the three-time Stanley Cup winner. That just rolls right off the tongue. Nice. Yeah, let's go get him.
Had a lot of jealousy in that. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Alec Martinez. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Jeff said you're one of the most exciting people to work with. That your energy level was going to be over the top, and you did not let me down right there.
Yeah. Well, there's not much to, with Darren Millard there, he doesn't really bring it too much. So we're constantly having to remind him to bring up the energy.
Yeah, he's not got any energy at all. He's been a different man since his many bicycle crashes. Anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah, a little different each time he gets up from one of those. But we got to give him a break, though. He still puts the goalie gear on, and he still brings it for being a host. He makes caffeine nervous, but he does a hell of a job. So we love working with him.
How is it switching over to being in the broadcast booth? Are you enjoying it, or is it something you ever thought you'd do?
Well, I said that I'd never be on TV, and then here I am working in broadcasting. It's funny, like you were just talking about Darren, and obviously he's an awesome dude, and I think he and I kind of developed a relationship and got closer, where you just mentioned he puts on the goalie pads and goes out there. And I had a pretty bad injury a few years back, and I got sliced in the face with a skate. And so I missed, I think, like 65 games. So I was out 5 months, and I kind of got to know, I mean, I knew Darren just in, obviously as a player and him working for the Knights and all that. But he and I got closer because, oftentimes I'd be skating by myself when the guys are on the road, and Darren would come out, so I would have a goalie to shoot on. So we kind of just developed a friendship that way. And I guess even at that time, he's like, I think, whenever that day comes when you're done playing, I think you'd be pretty good to go on TV. And I just kind of brushed it off because, as a player, I'm thinking like, well, that's the least of my concerns. And that's years and years away. Right. And when in reality, I knew in the back of my head that it wasn't too far away. But so we had kind of talked about it. And then he and I had a conversation this summer, or like at the end of the season, my last year in Vegas. And we said, actually had a real conversation of what it would look like. And I said, I'll keep it in mind. And I was like, I don't really know what's going to happen. I ended up signing with Chicago, so that obviously delayed it a little bit. But then, and so then last summer it just kind of reared its head again. And he's like, is this something that you'd be interested in trying? And my first year out, at least maybe 2 years, I said, I want to be a dad and I want to get my health back, but I'll just try some stuff. And knowing Darren and how good he is, and what the Knights organization meant to me when they came to me and wanted me to do it, I was flattered. So I said, yeah, for sure. I'll try some. So it's been a lot of fun. I know Sharps and I have talked about it a little bit. It's been good for me transitioning out of the game. Just to, I know I'm not on the team, but it makes me feel somewhat involved. I feel somewhat involved with the organization, part of the game, part of the outcome. So it's been really fun that way. And like we mentioned, everyone that we work with is great. So that's been easy, and everyone's been really supportive, and it's hard. Like it's not an easy thing to do, and there's a lot to learn. So everyone's been awesome.
There's nobody better to learn from than Darren, though. We chirp him, he chirps us, but he's very welcoming with his knowledge to give you, so you can't think of a better person to do it with. Let's go back to I want to go back to you. You said 65 games you were out for?
Yeah, I think that's what it ended up being. I got sliced in November. And then I don't think I played a game till March 15th, March 18th, something like that, mid-March. But yeah, it was a long time.
When you go through something like that, do they have somebody that has been through a long-term injury that helps you go through it mentally? Or are you just kind of on your own dealing with that? Because
the Knights are like a top organization when it comes to that stuff. Like the amount of resources that you have. And the cool part about, I think, their staff too, is that they're very open to outsiders, where, I mean, they have certain things that they're like particularly very, very good at. But if it's beyond their expertise, or if, there's someone else that they've heard or has seemed to have helped someone, go through a similar situation, they're more than willing to send guys to see them. And I had a bit of a weird case, which was a blessing and a curse, I guess. It was, all these outside specialists wanted to see me because it was such a weird case. But then the problem is that no one had ever really seen it before. So no one knew really how to fix it. Not that they didn't know how to fix it, but it was just, I don't know. It was, there were a lot of moving parts, but yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I feel forever indebted to that organization, because they went far beyond anything that I would say that they're required to do to help me feel better and help me figure out what was wrong. So they have so many resources. It's awesome.
Hey, Marty, just to build on that. So if you play hockey or any sport, really, you're going to have a wrist or a shoulder or a knee, or a groin injury is very common in hockey. And so we could probably have a bunch of guys around the league in pro sports right now or pro hockey working through that. But as you said, yours was very specific and different. Well, how did you saw all these guys, but how did you know, and how did you, like, there's no time frame for what you had. How did you start to, like, when did you feel you started to turn a corner? Or did you ever feel like, because that would have been really tough mentally, like, yeah, I got all these guys that will see me, but I'm kind of the test case here in a lot of ways. Like, how did you deal with that mentally? Like, how did you, there's goals and goalposts and goals, you always look for, or gates and goals, I guess, you're going through. Just walk us through how you kind of felt like you're turning the corner, getting better.
That's a loaded question with a loaded answer. So I'll try to
try not to swear.
No, I never, it was easily the most frustrating injury that I had ever had in my career. And oftentimes with the head stuff, there really aren't those gates and goals that you were talking about. It's just, you're kind of just sitting there waiting for something to get better. And, I guess at least with a broken bone or a muscle or tendon, what have you, a surgery, it's like you're given this timeline. And so you kind of know. I mean, if I at least, don't have me go day to day when it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. Like, tell me 6 to 8 weeks, I can wrap my head around that. And then I'm good, like, all right, a month in, I'm starting to feel better. I'm halfway there. You at least have something like that. But with this, it was, I just knew I didn't feel right. And I knew something was wrong. And it was almost like this constant of, like, I'd almost build up hope, and then we would try something and implement it, and then it wouldn't work. So then it was back down to, like, all right, well, we're back to square one. What can we do next? And so it was a combination of, I saw probably a dozen specialists of various different, I guess, specialties. I tried upwards of probably 15 to 20 medications to try to help me. Lifestyle changes, and I don't mean like anything drastic, but I mean some kind of like diet, or I'm always trying to get sleep, but just various things like that, that weren't just throwing another prescription medication at it, like cold tubbing, sauna, different modalities like that. So, and it was just hard because it was, we didn't really know it at the time, at the beginning, but it was all nerve related. And so anyone that's had any kind of nerve issue, they're horrible. You don't ever know. They're slow. They're not predictable. You don't know, when they're going to get better. And so I guess, like, the short answer is, like, when did I feel like I turned a corner? Well, to be honest, I never did. I think we were able to get some of the stuff under control with my neurosurgeon, who eventually was the one who, a lot of people helped me along the way, but he was the one to kind of put all the pieces together and figure out the puzzle. And honestly, it it got to the point where I was like, I don't even care about playing hockey again. I just want to live a normal life. And so I mean, I'm so grateful that I found him, and I still work with him, and he's become more of a friend than really my doctor. But we kind of just reached a point where, and one of the reasons that I'm so grateful for him, and I think he's so smart. I mean, he's so smart from like a scientific and doctor standpoint, but he also understands the athlete and the human being. And, he has some experience working with athletes too. And, he and I just had a real candid conversation in March that, he said, I think that you're kind of waiting to just wake up one morning and this is all going to be gone, or this is all going to be better. And he said, truthfully, I don't know if that day is ever going to come. He's like, I think it will. But he said, for right now, he's like, I think as long as you feel like you can protect yourself on the ice and you feel comfortable doing this. And again, he's like, you're the one driving the bus and you have to be comfortable doing it. He's like, I don't think that you can underestimate the power of putting you back into a position that, and by position, I mean on the ice. I mean, I've been skating with the team, but put you in a game where you have fun. Your brain is in a familiar space, I guess, something you've been doing your entire life. And he's like, I think it's just time that we try this thing. And I was on all sorts of drugs that were inhibiting me in certain regards, because this slice, it affected the way my heart was working. It affected my hormones. It affected, I had vestibular migraines. So it was migraines that were affecting my balance, my vision. I mean, it was like, you name it. It was like this 5-headed monster. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful for his idea and his insight of like, hey, like, this isn't just going to go away. We need to see if you can do this. And that's when we ultimately made the decision for me to start playing again and see if it was something that I could work through. And we had gone through all the appropriate protocols to make sure that I could protect myself out there. I felt comfortable. And so, yeah, I mean, and then truthfully after that, there was no real hump. I mean, I guess the only time that I felt like I had kind of overcome a little bit was when I could, at the end of that season, sort of wean myself off some of the drugs that I was on to help my hormonal, like my cortisol, my hormonal levels and all that. So, sorry, that was like kind of a long-winded thing. And the funny part is that we could probably go through like another 12-pack. And I could tell you the whole story, but yeah, it was a hard one. I mean, people, like one of the things that I've tried to like bring to the broadcast, Sharks, we've talked about this, where it's like a humanizing thing. Like everyone has a tendency, and I know this gets like oversaid, but everyone looks at athletes and it's just like robots. It's like they should do the right thing every time, and it's like this is what they're paid to do, and this and that. Well, there's like a huge human element to this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, you play a sport and it's under a microscope, but you're also a human being and you have a life. And it's like that to me, like if anything, the injury provided a little bit of perspective where I'm like, hey, like I just, this is a shitty thing to go through. And I just want to come out of this and live a normal life. Like I don't even care about hockey, but
yeah, I think it's great you talk about it in such a way, because people don't, if you don't hear about it, it doesn't exist, right? So if they don't hear your struggle, it doesn't exist. And to learn that the other robots get hurt like that, right?
yeah,
And it does mean something, because well, why doesn't the guy come back? Why doesn't that guy come back? Well, now you hear what you're going through to get back to play a game that you love for people that love that game, right?
yeah.
So that's that. I think it's great that you're candid about it. Like just you talk about it. It's fantastic. Terrible you went through it, and are you still struggling with it at all? Like are you dealing with it like if in everyday life? Does it affect you?
Yeah, it affects. I still. I mean, it's good that without getting into the weeds too much, it's good that now that I'm done playing, that my neurosurgeon can kind of address some of the things that were going on. And, for one example was my blood sugar. He's like, I don't want to mess with that when you're playing, but now that I'm done, like he can actually give me the appropriate, supplements or change things. I mean, to be honest, like just regular sleep makes a huge difference. And sounds elementary, but like just not getting into a city at 2 a.m. and then up again at 8 because we play the next night, like just having a little bit of sleep regularity, like makes a huge difference.
I don't know how you guys do it. Like I did Halifax, Moncton, and Ottawa, and I had to leave. I did the show like one night, and then I had to leave at 5 a.m. and then I was in Ottawa at 7 a.m. and then I had to sleep and go do the show. And I remember waking up in the middle of the day thinking I'd mixed my flight for the next day because I hadn't had the sleep.
Yeah.
I didn't have to play hockey. I can't imagine, the way you're going through it. Can you imagine going back a generation and having to fly just commercial flights and doing all that? Oh my God.
I know. And it's like you feel like you kind of feel shitty bitching about it, right? Because it's like, you're like, well, I'm flying the way, but it's like, you take all that, like, don't get me wrong. Like they take such good care of you. You're staying at a nice hotel, flying, charter or on the team's plane and all that. But stuff isn't difficult, but travel is travel, and time changes whether you're flying first or you're, down with the luggage. Like your time change is the same, right? So, I don't know. It's hard.
What's funny, Marty, is going back. I remember years and years ago when I was, we're talking a long time, back in Detroit, and we had a guy come in, and everyone says the same thing about sleep. Get on a regular pattern. I mean, now you have two young ones, right? And so you're in the same time zone, but you're not on the same pattern because your two young ones are, there's different needs. They're not all going to sleep through the night. But I find that, and you're just not going to get until the summertime. And if you have kids, you're not going to get it probably till they leave the house. But an athlete, they're not going to get those and look at the schedule. Like, I'll give you an example, and you've lived it, but the Golden Knights play 16 games, and all the teams do in 31 days in January. They're on their way out to the East Coast to play. There's just no way. And I think a lot of people deal with it, but part of fixing you, right, was trying to get you on a regular schedule, which when you went back to doing what you love was impossible. So
and that was like, that's why my neurosurgeon was like, we're just managing it. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it until you're done playing, and then you can actually, trust me, everyone's got late nights every once in a while, regardless of what they do, but you're not doing it consistently for 13 days straight. I mean, like what you said, the 16 games in 31 days, like, and that's the other thing too. He's like, you're not put into this high adrenaline like situation where like your brain has to be on, because if you turn it off for a second, then someone puts you in the first row, and and you're sitting with the fans because you just got absolutely blown up. So there's just a lot of factors at play that way.
I think at the end of the day, you're being paid for all the stuff around the game, not really the game, playing the game. It's everything else that you do to play the game. That's what you're being paid for.
Yeah, to manage it. Hey, Marty, I wanted to ask you about coming back off the injury and playing, where that put you, but before, we're talking about the sleep, before we get there, how do you feel now that you're basically, I mean, we're in the Pacific time zone here. You aren't switching time zones, other maybe you've gone and seen family or something. Do you notice a difference now? Obviously, you don't have the wear and tear and the adrenaline of training every day. How do you have you noticed a difference on like you're getting more sleep physically or mentally?
Yeah, I feel better in general. Like I said, I still have those issues with some of my migraines and things like that, but I think from like a physical standpoint, I mean, developing like somewhat of a schedule has been good for me. And that's, I guess, another part of this is in retirement is that's the biggest thing that I didn't really realize that I was going to miss was the schedule, just how much like your life is dictated on a daily level, but then also like over the course of 9 months, like Labor Day weekend rolls around. All right, that's the last fun party weekend, and then it's back to wherever you're playing city, and then it's go time because camp is coming up. But now that I've developed like somewhat of a schedule with the kids, we have a good routine, sleeping a lot better, not traveling nearly as much. Yeah, from a daily standpoint, like physically my body feels better, and just not having the the physicality and things like that every other 16 nights and 31 days, and waking up and not having blocked a half a dozen shots the night before. Like my wife actually mentioned it to me yesterday, that she's like, it's nice to see you like actually walk around the kitchen after dinner or like at night, and you're not hobbling, because it's like you took 2 pucks off the ankle, and she's like, you're just walking around the house now rather than hobbling, and so it does that way. I feel better. I mean, I've continued to work out and do stuff like that, but it's stuff to try to like maintain and get my health back and try to feel better, I guess.
So, okay. So we're talked about like this path. So let's talk about, because you and I recently were talking about Captain Stone and how he missed 10 games and came back and he was unbelievable. And you were like shaking your head, because then we'll use Jack Eichel came back and he had a little bit of rust after a couple of games, but then he took off. You missed 50, 60 games, right? So I'm going to say, let's just say, I don't know what it was, 50, 55. Now you got to come back.
65 earlier.
Okay, 60. Well, I was like, if
How do you
he
go low?
left
How do you
in
lowball him
November,
like that?
the season would have been over.
How do you lowball him like that?
I don't remember what I honestly, I don't remember. Call it 55, 65, something.
No, he's totally lowballing you. What, he's just
I mean, I'm just like, come on, Marty, you should have been back after 14. Come on. But what I'm getting at is, so we talk about it's a big deal when people miss any amount of time. Well, you missed a whole bunch of time with an unknown. Like we said, this wasn't just something that cookie. I'm not saying cookie cut injuries, because everyone's different, but there was no time frame for this. So now you're coming back, and the league has picked up another couple gears minimum. How do you? Was your adrenaline so? Were you so excited about it that you were just kind of like, I'm back. I feel good about being around the guys. I'm going down to T-Mobile to play. Did that take over, or how did you manage that? Because I mean, I don't know if your first game was against like Edmonton or something. You got
it was against Chicago.
Yeah. So how did you treat that?
I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little nervous. I mean, I was obviously really excited. I mean, I hadn't played in 5 months. I was excited to get back out there, but and I was comfortable with doing it. But it's funny. It's like, regardless of what the injury is, I think that there's always this element of your brain that is gonna try to protect yourself once you go out there. And I think, it doesn't matter whether you hurt your knee, you break your hand, you do something. There's always like that. It must be some primal or like biological thing that you almost need to just get blown up once in the game to know that you're okay. Like it's almost like you have to, like coming back from a broken foot, it's like I almost need to block a shot in that foot and it be okay for my brain to actually learn to, know that that I'm back. I don't know. So there was like a little bit of that where I'm like, I didn't want to get sliced in the face, by any means, but like, it's like the old adage, like in a game. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to try this out with a butter knife or something in the locker room before my snack, but but it's kind of like the old adage in hockey where it's like to get into a game, like give a hit, take a hit, and there was, certainly an element of that, but they also knew, like I was on a heart medication, that that really, I mean, it sucked to be on. And so I was on a bit of a pitch count. So like they eased me back in, and it's hard because you jump back in there and you're like, I'm back. Like, I don't need a governor here. Like it's, if I'm back, like it's because I'm ready to go, like, let's go. And so, but I was appreciative, like, especially in hindsight of our coaching staff and all that kind of gave me a bit of a pitch count. So they worked, I think maybe that first game I only played like 13 or 14 minutes. And obviously that being calculated, and then they slowly built up from there. But it's hard at the beginning. Like there's almost like a little bit of a hump, and that's not even just like the hockey stuff, but it's also cool too. Like the return to play stuff has gotten so much better, even just like throughout my career. Not that it wasn't good at the beginning, but it was more of like, it went from more of an eyeball test at the beginning of my career. Towards the end, it was like eyeball test, but then also they introduce all these different metrics. They have all these sensors on you that can kind of tell. They have, Vegas in particular utilizes this, like, I guess without getting into the too nerdy, but it's like almost like a GPS system, and it spits out a unit of work of your high intensity minutes, and it's all tied to your heart rate and this and that. And I find that there's, and the skill coaches are so good at that, where it's like when you come back, you're already in shape to play. So like your lungs aren't really much of an issue. Your legs aren't much of an issue. And then when you come back, it's oftentimes the little plays that come, are the last to return, the little plays that end up making the biggest difference. But just the little plays like in tight, or the little breakout plays. But the skill coaches have gotten so good at replicating those too, that like coming back from an injury, the last like 7-8 years of my career, I felt so much better in that first game than I did previously. And they have it almost down to a science. So I think what guys really probably fight, and what's hard to come back now is, and you can't replicate it, is, we talked about like when Stoney came back or when Jack came back, and it takes a couple games. It's that initial like brain thing, whatever you want to call it. But then it's your timing. There's no way to replicate an in-game situation unless you're in a game. Like you can draw up as many drills in practice, you can do as much stuff out there as you want, but at the end of the day, like I know going back for a puck in practice, my teammate's not going to lay me out, So it's like, I mean, you're a defenseman, right? Like going back for a puck, that's the worst part of the job. It sucks. Like I'd probably rather step in front of a slap shot than go back for a puck and some guys, behind me looking to just bury me. So I think that's like kind of the element where it's like these teams are so good at the return to play stuff from a physical and like a skill standpoint, that it's just, it's the timing and things like that that's just hard to replicate.